when America was British USA. Imagine a world where the streets of New York and Boston echoed not with the shouts of revolutionaries, but with the commands of distant kings. Where tea was not spilled in protest, but poured quietly in obedient parlors. This was the world of early British America, a world on the brink of transformation. Before we dive into the main story, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell notification button for more interesting video like this. The first settlements. Date: 1607. Location: Jamestown, Virginia. Key players: the Virginia Company of London, King James I. Fact: Jamestown became the first permanent English settlement in the Americas. The settlers faced famine, disease, and conflict with Native Americans, yet their perseverance laid the foundation for a new society. Expansion of the 13 colonies. Over the next 150 years, Britain established 13 colonies along the East Coast: Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut; New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware; Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Economic systems. Tobacco, sugar, and cotton plantations fueled the empire, powered by indentured servants and enslaved Africans. Pushpin. This mix of industry, agriculture, and cultural diversity created the social, economic, and political patterns that still echo in modern America. Cultural and political impact. British law and governance. Colonists adopted English legal codes, representative assemblies, and town hall meetings. Language and religion. English became the official language, Protestantism spread widely, and education flourished in institutions like Harvard, 1636. Tensions begin. By the mid-1700s, disputes over taxation without representation and colonial autonomy began to strain relations. Key event: the road to revolution. Date: 1773. Event: the Boston Tea Party. Impact: colonial protests ignited a political firestorm against British rule. 1775. Armed conflict began. 1776. Declaration of Independence. Result: Britain lost control of the 13 colonies, giving birth to the United States of America. From Jamestown to the Declaration of Independence, the story of British America is one of survival, ambition, and rebellion. But while the United States fought for freedom, across the oceans in the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia, other colonies were only beginning to feel the far-reaching hand of the British Empire. Next, we journey to Canada, the first land claimed by England, where discovery, fur, and diplomacy would set the stage for another chapter in the British colonial saga. Britain's first claim, Canada. Before the bustling cities of North America, before the 13 colonies, there was a cold and mysterious land, vast forests, and icy seas, where a single voyage would mark the beginning of Britain's global ambitions. This is the story of John Cabot, the Venetian explorer who sailed under the English flag, and of the land that would become Canada. The historic voyage. Date: 1497. Explorer: John Cabot, Giovanni Caboto. Commissioned by King Henry VII of England. Ship: the Matthew. Mission: to find a new route to Asia, but instead, Cabot reached the northeastern coast of North America, believed to be Newfoundland. This was the first official English claim on the American continent, centuries before Jamestown, and the first step in England's march toward empire. Early British influence. Fur trade. In the 16th to 17th centuries, English traders began exchanging goods with indigenous peoples, competing with the French in what became New France. Exploration and mapping. British maps and charts helped establish England's claim and paved the way for future settlers. Conflict and diplomacy. Relations with the French and indigenous nations shaped Canada's political and cultural landscape. Impact of British colonization. Political systems. English common law influenced Canadian governance, leading to parliamentary democracy in later centuries. Language and culture. English became one of the dominant languages alongside French. Economic foundations. Fishing, timber, and later fur became core industries under British influence. Settler growth. Unlike the Southern American colonies, Canada's harsh climate slowed population growth but preserved much of indigenous culture early on. Key historical moment. 1763, Treaty of Paris. Britain gained control over New France, Quebec, and parts of modern Canada, after the 7 Years' War, solidifying its presence in North America. Impact. Laid the foundation for the modern bilingual multicultural Canada we know today. From John Cabot's daring voyage to the Treaty of Paris, Canada became the first true foothold of British power in the New World. But while the North grew cold and quiet, the South was heating up in revolution, and the empire's eyes turned toward lands rich in gold, spices and people to rule. Next, we sail east to India, the jewel of the empire, where trade, conquest and culture collide in a story of immense wealth, power and transformation. The jewel of the empire, India. Imagine a land of endless colors, spices and wealth, where empires had risen and fallen for centuries. Now picture a new power arriving, not to conquer in a single battle, but to slowly weave its influence across the subcontinent for almost 2 centuries. This is the story of how Britain made India the crown jewel of its empire, and how India's people would eventually reclaim their destiny. The beginning of British India. Date: 1600. Key organization: the British East India Company. Mission: trade spices, silk and other luxury goods from India to Europe. First trading post: Surat on India's west coast. What began as commerce quickly became politics. The East India Company evolved from merchants to rulers, controlling territories, armies and eventually millions of people. Expansion and conquest. 1757, Battle of Plassey. Event: Robert Clive and the East India Company defeated the Nawab of Bengal. Impact: began formal British control of Bengal, a rich region supplying massive revenue. 19th century, the British gradually expanded across India through treaties, wars and alliances. 1857, the Indian Rebellion, Sepoy Mutiny. A major uprising against the company's rule. Outcome: the British Crown took direct control, beginning the British Raj 1858 to 1947. Impact of British rule. Infrastructure: railways, telegraphs, ports and roads modernized transport and trade. Administration and law. Civil services, legal codes and bureaucracy created lasting systems. Education. English language schools and universities introduced Western ideas. Economy. India became a supplier of raw materials and a market for British goods. Local industries like textiles were heavily impacted. Cultural change. Western ideas blended with traditional Indian culture, sparking both collaboration and resistance. Despite immense exploitation, India's people retained resilience, culture and identity, setting the stage for future independence. 1947, Indian independence. After decades of struggle, led by figures like Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru, India became free from British rule. Impact: birth of 2 nations, India and Pakistan, and the end of nearly 200 years of colonial dominance. From trading posts to the vast British Raj, India's story is one of wealth, culture and struggle. But while India endured and ultimately gained independence, the British Empire still stretched across Africa, the Caribbean and Australia, leaving behind stories of power, resistance and transformation waiting to be told. Next, we turn to Africa, where Nigeria, Ghana and Kenya reveal how colonial borders, resources and resistance shaped entire nations for centuries. To watch the full video, click the link on our bio, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting hidden historical fact.